Now we're on that pay Vav and Bays, but Makin also takes in after. So if a person refuses to fulfill a mitzvah asay, then we'll beat him up until he dies. Again, there's a long discussion here about what that means. Do we really kill the guy if necessary? Or hopefully at some point he gets so weak, he'll finally give in and fulfill the mitzvah. And he'll say, Rotzani, I want to fulfill the mitzvah. You see that the Torah, the halach is not very democratic. In a democratic world of contemporary society, this would not go over. Beat up a guy because he doesn't go to church on Sundays, Now the Rambam here in Hilchos Gerushin has a very big chiddush. I think we've discussed it in the past, that when we beat him up, we finally get out his true ratzon. A Jew has a true ratzon to fulfill the mitzvah of Hashem. But sometimes the goof prevents that ratzon, so we have to beat him up. That's the famous Rambam in Hilchos Gerushin. Okay. Now, we're on a new sugya. This is one of these dapim which go from one sugya to the next. If you breathe, you miss that, we turned the corner and we started a new sugya. The sugya that we're going to deal with now is Kinyan Mashicha B'Metaltalin, and specifically in a case of a Kinyan Lahaba, where he sells him Metaltalin, or in the case of a Baal, he gives her a get and he says, Li Achar Lamed. Now, if he says me achshav li achar lamed, it should be chal now, which means that after 30 days pass, it goes retroactive to the beginning of the 30 days. Then there's no issue whatsoever. And the Maisa Kinyan is done now. And even the Chalos Kinyan is now, but just we have to wait the 30 days. So there's not going to be any issue about where is the object, the metaltalin, located at the end of the 30 days. Is it in a simto, which is royal kinyan, or what should we call it, an agam, or tzidei rishus harabim we'll see about, or is it in rishus harabim? However, the machlokas here is going to be in the case where he leaves out the word me'achshav, and he says to mishoch parazu v'lotia knuya l'cha el yachar shloshim yom. Do a mashicha now, but the chalos is postponed for 30 days. Tosfos is of the opinion that lo kana, that he cannot make such a kinyan, but the other Rishonim, and Rashi included in them, they hold it's machlokas hamoraim, and our sugya reflects the shita that even if he omitted the word me'achshav, the kinyan is valid, but only conditional on the fact that the para remains in a place where he could call it his own, which is either Rishus HaYochid, owned by the Kona, or a Simto at Tzidei Rishus HaRabim, and so forth and so on. In other words, we still feel the impact of the original Maisa Kinyan. So again, our sugya, according to most Rishonim, would reflect the opinion that even in a case where he omitted the word me'achshav, and he said to him, Mishoch parazu hayom, v'lo te'knu yilcha ad li'achar shloshim yom, if the para remains in a private domain that's royal kinyan, then the kinyan will be chal and be validated at the end of the 30 days. It's not l'mafreya, because he left out the word me'achshav. Now we have a sugya about get li'achar shloshim yom. A man delivers a get to his wife, and he says it should be chal after 30 days. The get at the end of the 30 days has to be located in a rishus which belongs to her, or at least she has partnership in that rishus, in order to activate and validate the original nesina, the Maisa Nesina v'Nosan Biyad that took place 30 days ago. Boy minei Rami Bar Chomim Rav Chisda, Harezu Gitech, V'lo Tizgarshi Bo El Liachar Shloshim Yom V'holcha V'nichchato V'tzidei Rishus HaRabim. Mal. So we said that in order for this get to be valid, the get has to be found and located at the end of the 30 days in a place that belongs to her, or a place that she has shutfus in, as opposed to Rishus HaRabim, which is not her Rishus. So if the get at the end of the 30 days was in Rishus HaRabim, not Sidei Rishus HaRabim, then it would be as if the get disappeared, went up in smoke, or was ripped up into shreds. She would not be Megureshes. But what about Sidei Rishus HaRabim? What's the status of Sidei Rishus HaRabim? Amalei Rav Chizda responded to Rami, Eina Megureshes mi de Rav Ushmuel B'Yavin Shavai. So we now quote a halacha referring to the Yisomim that is unanimously accepted by both Rav and Shmuel, and based on this ruling, we're going to prove that in the case of a chayfetz that's munach Rishus HaRabim, the get can't be chal in liach lamed, and Sidei Rishus HaRabim have the same status as Rishus HaRabim. What was the case and the ruling of Rav and Shmuel? This is all based on Rabbi Tarfon. Back on Daf Pei Dal, what happens is that a Baal Chov and an Almona both come to claim from the Yisomim. Right, the Almona wants to claim a ksuba after her husband died, and the father left Peros Tlushim, cut fruits or grains. Rabbi Tarfon holds, Kol HaKodem Lizkos B'Peros Zoch. If the Malva and the Isha both have rights to Tfisa, then whoever gets there first will acquire ownership over those Peros. That's the statement and the ruling of Rabbi Tarfon, and now Rav and Shmuel qualify that ruling, and they add V'hu shetzvurim umunachim b'Rishus HaRabim. The Malva and the Isha only have rights of Tfisa on these Peros because the Yisomim right now do not possess those Peros. Why? Because the Peros are in a public domain. And that public domain now is mafkia the tfisa of the Rishus HaYisomim. And that allows and opens up the door for tfisa on behalf of the Malva or the Isha. But if the Peros are in a Simta, which is a place that's royally Kenyan, then immediately with the death of the father, the Yisomim acquire ownership on these Peros. And it's as if the Peros were munachim b'Rishusam, and these are metaltalin, and the Baal Chov and the Isha for Aksuba do not have rights to collect these metaltalin, because we have a principle called metaltalin mishtabim l'Baal Chov l'Aksuba. So we see clearly from Rav and Shmuel that if an object is located in Rishus HaRabim, it's not considered in the Rishus HaBailim. And that's why the halach of Tfisa will apply if the chayfetz is in Rishus HaRabim. That's what will apply Rabbi Tarfon's principle. Now, if a man gives a get and he suspends and delays the chalos hagerushin until after 30 days, the get is now munach Rishus HaRabim, then it's not in the Rishus of the Isha. It's as if the get was burnt up, as we said before, ripped into shreds. And Rav Chizda adds, "V'tzidei Rishus HaRabim, Rishus HaRabim domain." Those extended areas beyond the places where the over Mishavim go, and the little corners here, and the little corners there, those are Tzidei Rishus HaRabim. They are swallowed up by Rishus HaRabim. Rishus HaRabim extends to incorporate even Tzidei Rishus HaRabim, and therefore she's not Megureshes, just like the case of Get Liach Lamed, when the get at the end of Lamed was found and located in a Rishus HaRabim. The Gemara says, I would prove the exact opposite, Megureshes, that the get is Chal. Why? Neither Rav Nachman, the Rav Nachman, Rav Rav Melech Haver, Mishal Parzu, Velo Take Milcha Adi After Shloshim Yom. Kana Afilo Meres Va'agam. My love, Hainu Adam, Hainu Tzidei Rishus Rabim. So we have an exact parallel between Get Liachar Lamed and Para Liachar Lamed. And we find in Rav Nachman's statement in the name of Rabbi that if the Para Liachar Lamed was located in a what's it called? In an agam is like an open marshland, then Kana, he can acquire ownership on the Para because it's in an agam. Now, an agam is a place where not too many people frequent, you know, like the Everglades. Have you ever been on those, what do they call those like flying planes, you know, they fly over the water. You know? So the only thing that's down in the water are alligators, you know, so an agam is not a place where people generally occupy. But even though it's owned by the rabbim, it's publicly owned property, but nevertheless, people don't go there. And the Gemara thinks that Tzidei Rishus Rabbim should have the same status as an agam. And why is that? Because Tzidei Rishus Rabbim, you only go into those small corners if, let's say, the Rishus Rabbim is overcrowded, overflowing with people. And it's very rare for a person to go into an agam. And therefore, the agam has a status of royal kinyan, and therefore the Para Knuyalo, and the get would be Chal in Tzidei Rishus Rabbim. Lo, agam l'chud, the Tzidei Rishus Rabbim l'chud. There are two dinim, and we shouldn't equate them. If a get is in an agam, then you're right. You know, she would be Megureshes. It's like the Rishus of the Isha. It's like a private property, so to speak, like a simta, which you can use for kinyan. But Tzidei Rishus Rabbim, that's not the same as an agam. That can't be considered the Rishus of the Isha. Ika Diamri, the Gemara now has a different girsa. And according to this new girsa, Rav Chizda responded to Rabbi Bar Chama not Eina Megureshes, but Megureshes. Amalei Megureshes, Midir Rav Nachman. B'tzidei Rishus Rabbim ka'agam domi. And he asks Adarabba Eina Megureshes Midir Rav Shmuel. And my love, Hainu Rishus Rabbim, Hainu Tzidei Rishus Rabbim, Lo, Rishus Rabbim l'chud, Tzidei Rishus Rabbim l'chud. And Tzidei Rishus Rabbim have the halacha, the status of an agam, and therefore it's royal kinyan, and she is Meguresh. And this leads us to the Mishnah here on Daf, the first Mishnah on Daf Pei Vav Amud Beis. And we're talking about the Baal's chus to be mashbia his wife when she deals with her with his nechasim. Hamoshev es ishto chenvonis. So a man appoints his wife to be the chenvonis, to be in charge of his store and sell his wares, his merchandise. It's like the Chofetz Chaim, you know, his wife, you know, the Chofetz Chaim was the Rashiva, but his wife took care of the store of the store. Or for example, the Balabayas, the Chenvonis, appointed an apotropos who would oversee the assets and the deficits of the sale of the merchandise. He would also be in charge of hiring workers and of bargaining back and forth with potential buyers. Reizen, all the above cases, mashbia, kolzman sheyirtze. He could be mash. Now, the word mashbia in the Mishnah ends with a mapik hey, and it's referring to his isha, and he could be mashbia osa, meaning his wife, that she didn't take any money in pocket. So we see clearly that the Rabbanan established this shvuah to guarantee that she wasn't pocketing any money. My parents used to have a word for this. Maybe my wife is around. Let's see. Char? You know what I'm talking about, Rabbi? Sometimes a wife like stashes away some money, in a drawer, in a safe. The husband doesn't know about it. So there's a word for it. I think it's a Yiddish word. I forgot. Rabbi Lezer Omer, afilu al pilcha ve'al isasa. Forget about a chenvanis. Forget about the fact that she is supervising the sale of his merchandise in the store. What about a case where she works on wool and she weaves the wool to sell quilts on the open market? Maybe she'll take some of the wool for herself, stash it away for a rainy day. Or in a case where she bakes for her husband, and maybe she took something for herself. So we need a shvuah. Now the question is, how often will she take the shvuah? The Gemara vacillates on the following question: Rabbi Eliezer al yidei gilgul ka'omar, or lechatchila ka'omar? When Rabbi Eliezer extended the shvuah to pilcha and isasa, was it only in a case of gilgul shvuah? In other words, she was a chenvanis, or she was appointed as an apotropis, and now he could be mashbia her as a chenvanis or an apotropsis, and then Bailey could be megalgal shvuah even on pilcha nisa. Oh, forget about chenvanis. She's not a chenvanis. She's not an apotropis. She's working. She's working the loom or baking, and that itself justifies this takonis chachamim that the husband can be mashbia. Toshma, Amru lo Rabbi Eliezer. The chachamim said to Rabbi Eliezer, the Baal does not have rights to be mashbia on pilcha ve'isasa. Why? She'eino dar im nachash b'kfifa achas. We don't live with a woman in such a way that on everything that she does, every little thing, we have to suspect her that she's stealing and pocketing money and valuables, and therefore we mashbia. That was the language of the Brisa. If you're going to say l'chatchila shapir, if Rabbi Eliezer says he could be mashbia without a gilgul shvuah for pilcha and isasa, then shall I understand the argument of the chachamim? How can you live with a nachash b'kfifa achas? For every little thing, he's going to be mashbia's wife. I mean, we're not adding another shvuah. She's already have to take the shvuah, even according to the chachamim. He's just extending the shvuah and saying, take a shvuah that you didn't steal any money, not the monies of the chadvani of the cashier, and not the monies of the tzemer or the pas. The Amrulay, Kevan the Kadaikis Pasroi, Kulehai, Lomatsinu the Other Badach. So the Gemara rejects this proof. The Gemara says, you know what? It could be that Rabbi Eliezer would only require a shvuah on the part of the Isha for Pilcha and Issa in a Gilgul shvuah situation. So then you're asking, what is the counter argument of the Chachamim, Ein Odem Dar B'Kfifa Achas, etc. And the answer is that if she sees that he's so meticulous and so suspicious of her that he even suspects that she's stealing bread from the oven or stealing wool from the loom, then it means, he doesn't love her, he doesn't trust her. And I don't want to live with such a man. You're really undermining the very harmony of this relationship. And that's why the Chacham reject Rabbi Eliezer, even if it's only al yidei gilgul shvu. Toshma, hareish lo potar as ishto min neder. So the case here is that a man generates what's called a neder of Isser Hana. And the question is, if he prohibits the entire world through this neder from gaining any hana, from any payros that he has, what about his wife? Is she also included in this neder? And therefore, she's enjoined from taking any payros. And the Brisa says that lo potar es ishto min haneder. She's also included in the neder. Umin hashvua, and she's also included in a shvua in the case where he wants her to take an oath that she didn't take anything of his. And he didn't write neder shvua ein li olayach, or the case of Hoshiva Chenvonis, so Shemina, Mino with a mapik hey, he appointed her as an apotropsia. Hareza mashbia kol zman sheyirtze. Whenever he wants to, he can impose an oath that she didn't take any of his properties. Lo Hoshiva Chenvonis lo min apotropis, and yochel hashbia. In other words, this reflects the shita of the Chachamim that he cannot be mashbia her on pilcha b'isasa. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Afal Pishlo Yeshiva Chenvonis Lo Mina Petropsa Reisa Mashpia Kol Zman Sheyirtza She'en Lecha Isha Shlo Nasis Apetropsa Shoachas B'Chai Baila Pilcha Bar Issa Omru Lo Ein Adam Dar Im Nochash B'Kfifa Shma Mino Lechat Tefila Shma Mino. It says here explicitly in this price that even though he didn't appoint her as the Apetropsis, and she's not a Chenvonis, she's not overseeing his possessions, nevertheless he can be Mashpia Lechat Tefila. On what? On Pilcha and Isasa. So you see that Rabbi Eliezer is not based on Gilgul Shvua, but even without Gilgul Shvua, he could be Mashbia. This leads us to the Mishnah here on the bottom of Daf Pei Vav and Beis. Kosav la neder u'shvua ein li alayich, eino yochel hashbia. If the Baal accepts upon himself the following condition, that when you come to collect the ksuva, or tvias neder. Now tvias neder is the following, that tadiri hana mikol perish ba'olam. You know what? I think we have to stop here. I just realized that because I have to give a shir now in another neighborhood. So we'll end here with the Mishnah of Kosav La Neder Shvua, which is a complicated Mishnah here on the bottom of Pei Vav. Okay, then. So again, we have our work cut out for us over Shabbos to finish up this Mishnah on Pei Vav and go on to Pei Zayin, so that on Yom Rishon Be'ez Hashem we could pick up Pei Ches. I mean that's quite a tall order, especially I have to give Shuvah Drasha, whatever. So let me wish you a great Shabbos and thank you. And we should only hear Besorot Tomot, and it should be a Gemara for all of us. And this Shabbos should be a meaningful Shabbos Shiva. And in the Mitzvah Hashem, we should only only be zocher to be written in the books of Chaim and Shalom and the Sorot Tovot.
Amen. So.